Okay, so today we're going to do a read aloud, think aloud with a section in our book, this little book that you guys all know about the Nazis and the Holocaust. So before we begin, let's think about what this section will cover. The titles here are Hitler's New Order and the Nazis Commit Genocide. What does this mean to you? What do we think it means? Do we think that Hitler's going to have a new order? Is he taking over the world? Is genocide's one of our new vocabulary words? So what can we predict from this? The title is the Nazis commit genocide. We know that genocide means killing a lot of people. What people do we think the Nazis are going to kill? What does this mean to us? And why? Why don't we find out? Let's begin reading. So, Hitler's New Order. Hitler's New Order grew out of his racial obsessions. As his forces conquered most of Europe, Hitler set up puppet governments in Western European countries that were peopled by Aryans, or light-skinned Europeans, whom Hitler and his followers believed to be a master race. The Slavs of Eastern Europe were considered to be an inferior race. They were shoved aside to provide more living space for Germans, who were considered the strongest Aryans. The Nazis' most sinister plans centered on the people of the occupied countries. During the 1930s, the Nazis had sent thousands of Jewish people and political opponents to concentration camps, which are detention centers for civilians who were considered enemies of the state. Over the course of the war, the Nazis forced these people, along with millions of Polish and Soviet Slavs and people of other parts of Europe, to work as slave laborers, to do hard labor in these camps. Prisoners were poorly fed and often worked to death. A little text to self for you guys. Have you ever been bullied or made fun of or discriminated against or anything? I know it's not really the same as being sent to a concentration camp or forced to do hard labor, but I've been made fun of plenty of times, and it really hurts my feelings and it really makes me sad. And so I can't imagine how it would feel to be forced into labor camps just because of how I looked. I mean, just because I was a certain religion or a certain ethnicity or certain race. That doesn't seem fathomable to me, and I hope that you think about these sort of things in your everyday life. I know I do. Okay, let's continue with the next section. The Nazis commit genocide. At the same time, Hitler pursued a vicious program to kill all people he judged racially inferior, particularly Europe's Jews. The Nazis also targeted other groups who did not meet the Aryan racial ideal, including Slavs, Romas or Gypsies, homosexuals, and the disabled. Political and religious leaders who spoke out against Nazism also suffered abuse. At first, the Nazis forced Jews in Poland and other countries to live in ghettos or concentration camps, But by 1941, German leaders had devised plans for their final solution of the Jewish problem, or the genocide of all European Jews. To accomplish his goal, Hitler had 6 special death camps built in Poland. The Nazis shipped undesirables from all over occupied Europe to the camps. I'm going to do a text-to-text real quick. A really amazing novel that I always think of, I read as a young girl, that I always think of when I hear about the genocide of Jewish people is The Diary of Anne Frank. It's an amazing novel that some of you may read at some point in your high school career if you haven't done so already. And it just follows this young girl who is your age through the trials and tribulations of being a Jewish person in a Jewish family in Germany during the time of the Holocaust. The book would be great for kids your age to read because it's exactly how old Anne Frank was when she was in hiding and when she wrote her diary. um, and she was just trying to escape some sort of, certain death, almost certain death. Can you imagine not being in school like you are now, and instead hiding from your country in closets, trying to escape death or trying to escape hard labor? It's something that I wouldn't be able to imagine, and it's something that you should think about, and you shouldn't take the way you live for granted. Definitely read that novel. It'll really open your eyes. Okay, let's continue. So, Nazi engineers designed the most efficient means of killing millions of men, women, and children. As the prisoners reached the camps, they were stripped of their clothes and valuables. Their heads were shaved. Guards separated men from women and children from their parents. The young, elderly, and sick were targeted for immediate killing. Excuse me. Within a few days, they were herded into shower rooms and gassed, basically gas chambers. They were told that they were going to take a shower, and they actually were gassed and killed. The Nazis worked others to death, those who weren't sick or young or elderly. They worked them to death or used them for perverse medical experiments. By 1945, the Nazis had massacred some 6 million Jews in what became known as the Holocaust. Nearly 6 million other people were killed as well. So to finalize this, end this for you guys, a text to world. I have some questions to ask you and maybe a follow-up. Do we have genocides like the Holocaust happening in our world today? I know it's happened since the Holocaust. Examples that I can think of are the Armenian genocide in Turkey and the genocide in Rwanda that happened in the 90s. There's a civil war going on in Europe or in Syria right now, and there are allegations of biochemical use, and this is something that I'm afraid may turn into a Holocaust. And one question that you should think about as future citizens of the world, and the future of the world, the people who are going to govern it, you should think about why do you think the world doesn't learn from its mistakes? This idea of genocide is something that continuously happens, and I just wonder why it's something that continues to happen, why it's not something that we can put a stop to at all. So good job today. Hopefully you got some good information from this, and this will help you out. Thanks.